everyone. Welcome to A Godly Home. What I have here is my great-grandmother's canning cookbook. My mother gave this to me on Mother's Day, this last Mother's Day, and I thought it would be fun to go through it with you guys. And I also know that on some of the other channels right now, there is a big debate on whether you can water bath can low acid foods safely. And this old cookbook actually answers that question very clearly. So let's take a look at the book in general, and we'll cover that topic when we get to it. So first of all, you can barely see it, but she had written her name on it, Edna, and all of her cookbooks and patterns and stuff, she did that. And I think it's because they loaned stuff out to friends and was circulating stuff back and forth. Not everybody could probably afford to have their own copy of stuff, and they just put their name on it. It was 35 cents for the book, and you can see it's been well loved and used. It's got masking tape on the side. And my great-grandmother has gone ahead and clipped other canning recipes and glued them inside here. But even though she has done that, we can see right there at the very bottom, this is from 1966. Now, it's kind of neat when I go through because I see my great-grandmother's handwriting, I see what I believe is my grandmother's handwriting, and I see my mother's handwriting in here. So everybody has loved and used this book. Then we have a handwritten recipe, my old standby beet pickles. It's just so neat. All right, now we have a note from my mother here that says, cook squash 4 minutes in the microwave before peeling will peel much easier. So there's a tip for you guys from my mother. Okay, so here we get into the methods of canning. The steam pressure method, that is what we call pressure cooking. Then the water bath method and open kettle method. Now, I am going to read a little warning over here about oven canning, and then we'll talk about pressure canning and water bath canning after. It says, oven canning is dangerous regardless of the brand of oven, jar, cap, or lid used. Jars, even those partly sealed, may explode when placed in the oven, causing damage to both persons and property. So that was interesting to me because I've never oven canned, but I know a lot of people that do, and I never realized that they could explode like that. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're an oven canner, I would definitely make sure that I couldn't see or feel any nicks or anything on those jars, which would just make them explode easier. Now, if I'm reading this to you guys and I'm hesitating, it's because the way I have the camera and the lighting, when I'm holding it up like this, I'm actually trying to read that through the camera screen. And I've got, other stuff on my screen, like a focus little emblem and different stuff that makes it hard for me. All right, so here we go. This is going to answer the question on this page, if you can water bath can everything. Steam pressure method. Steam pressure method is a way of processing foods under pressure at a temperature of 240 degrees Fahrenheit. 10 pounds of pressure at sea level at 2,000 feet above. This method is recommended for processing beans, beets, corn, meats, and all other low-acid foods. A steam pressure canner or cooker is the only kitchen utensil which supplies enough heat to destroy the spores of bacteria which cause flat sour, botulism, and some other types of spoilage. Now, don't worry if you didn't know that. I didn't know that until this last year. My family always water bathed, and I didn't know that. And I got to asking my aunt, and she was explaining this to me. And then when I read it in a 1966 cookbook, then all the arguments of, well, they did it years ago. Well, you guys, seriously, in 1966, the truth of the matter is, and I was shocked too, they knew in 1966 it wasn't safe. And it will explain later in this cookbook why. Okay, now let's read what it says under the water bath method. Water bath method, which is using just a plain canner, not a pressure canner, or using a kettle, is a way of processing foods at a temperature of 212 degrees Fahrenheit. This method is recommended for processing fruits, tomatoes, and other acid foods. Enough heat is supplied by the boiling water to destroy the bacteria, enzymes, molds, and yeasts which cause spoilage in acid foods. In warm climates, or if storage conditions are poor, butters, conserves, jams, and preserves should be processed at simmering for 10 to 20 minutes in a water bath canner. So there you have it. It lists right out clearly what can be water bath canned and what cannot. Now, I also want to say that when I learned to can, even though it was the water bath method, we always sterilized our jars in boiling water, and we boiled our rings and lids, and everything went in there hot packed, and it got processed and it got dated. And at the 1 year mark, if that wasn't used, and it was kept down cellar where it was cool, but at the 1 year mark, if that wasn't used, it was dumped out. And I'm not going to say that that prevents botulism, because it doesn't, but that's what we did. Okay, then it gets into jar estimates. This tells you, like, if you have so many pounds of this and so many pounds of that, approximately you would need this many jars in order to process it. That is a huge help. And then over here, it's a food planning guide. It gives you an idea of how many jars of each thing you would need for a certain amount of time for one person or a family of 4. That is so helpful. This section could even be used right now for food storage, even if you're not canning, but just to figure out for yourself, okay, how many canned meats should I be stocking up in my food storage for the winter? How many pickles, how many canned vegetables, that sort of thing. It's a great chart, and I will probably reference that a lot. Then they talk about the types of jars and fittings, and I thought this was interesting. It talks about using the rubbers on the old clamp jars or with the old zinc lids. And my mother talks about canning when I was a baby and having the jars with the rubbers and not knowing what to do. And she had to have my great-grandfather come over and help her because my great-grandmother wasn't home that day. And so that's kind of neat. And then it talks about, things that you should know in general, like your different terms and stuff like that. Now, this is where I want to get into specifically the botulism, okay? And remember, it said that botulism could not be cured by water bath canning on low acid foods. Okay, botulism is a poisoning caused by a toxin. The toxin is produced by the growth of spores of, oh gosh, guys, Clostridium botulism in a sealed jar. Spores of botulism are carried from one place to another by dust, wind, and the soil clinging to raw foods. These spores can grow in a tightly sealed jar of any low-acid food because they belong to a species of bacteria which cannot grow in the presence of air and which does not normally thrive in acid foods. The spores are destroyed when low-acid foods are correctly processed in a steam pressure canner, which is in good working order. Home canners who use the correct methods of selecting, preparing, packing, and processing foods have no reason to worry about botulism. Okay, guys, that's really interesting. And of course, if you're canning today, use the USDA website and get the correct processing times and all of that, because I'm sure even with this cookbook, the processing times are off because science is always advancing and they always know more. And then I wanted to read this. As an extra precaution, all low acid foods should be boiled for 15 minutes before tasting in order to destroy any toxin which could be present if some error was made in processing. Thick masses such as greens should be stirred while boiling. Now, seriously, guys, when I was a kid, okay, whether you were opening up a home canned jar, low acid, full of acid, whatever, or a store-bought canned jar, we were told to boil that. We were told at least 10 minutes, but this says 15 minutes. And we always did that. You didn't open up a jar, dump out the stuff or a can, and just go pop it in the microwave. You always boiled it like that. And that's good, because we have gotten out of that habit. But especially with food storage, some of us are going to have canned goods that are dented, that are sitting on the shelf longer than normal. We're going to be having maybe even some expired canned goods that we didn't notice. So it's good to remember that we should be boiling that stuff for the 15 minutes. Now, I didn't know what the flat sour was when it stated that flat sour couldn't be killed in a water bath canner on low acid foods. So let's just quickly read what flat sour is. Flat sour is the most common type of spoilage in canned vegetables. It is caused by bacteria, which give food an unpleasant, sourish flavor. Flat sour is avoided by the use of correct methods of selecting, handling, preparing, and packing, processing, and cooling foods. Very interesting. I hope everybody is learning some interesting stuff here. Okay. Then they have a what is the cause section. And in this section, they are talking about different things that might have happened with your canned goods and why it happened and how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Several pages of that. Then they give you your canning times. Okay. Some of the seasonings that would be used in canning and some information on that. I love these old pictures like this. Fruits and acid vegetables. Canning peaches, step by step with all the old photos. I love these recipes where stuff has been spilled on them. Then I know my great grandmother definitely canned strawberries and she definitely hot packed apples. More recipes. Hot pack for tomatoes. Looks like she made a tomato salad too. Canning tomatoes step by step with all the photos. Fruit juices. And another beautiful photo. Then low acid vegetable section. Canning green beans. Once again, ignore this old note at the top. It's inaccurate information. But down here, we see all the steps to canning green beans, and that is in 1966 with a pressure canner. All these different recipes. Graham has cream style corn and whole kernel corn circled. Canning meats. Seafoods, poultry. Soups and sandwich spreads. Another beautiful photo. Pickles and relishes. Dilly beans. Pickled peppers. Has anybody ever had pickled peppers? Like homemade pickled peppers? Corn relish. There's a note here, sounds good. Ketchup and sauces. Look how ketchup is spelled. Another beautiful photo. Jelly. And this talks about how some fruits don't require pectin in order to make jelly set up because they have a lot of pectin in them already. How to make jelly without added pectin using paraffin, which is a wax. That's an old-time canning method I haven't seen anybody use in many, many, many years. So many ideas for different jellies, jams, preserves, all this stuff. Orange lemon marmalade. Oh, that sounds delicious. That might make some nice Christmas gifts, or orange pineapple marmalade. Special diet foods, canning without sugar, what to do if you need to can without salt. Sauerkraut, horseradish. Another beautiful photo. Gosh, I love these photos. Freezing, it even gets into how to freeze. Gives you all of your instructions on that. Here it tells you how long to blanch your vegetables before you freeze them. To freeze meats, poultry, and game. Scrapple head cheese. Oh, hogshead cheese. Okay, and then this part in the back is the best part of all. Of course, my great-grandmother has this recipe stapled over it, but where it's stapled, I can lift it up, and it says, how to preserve a husband. Be careful in your selection. Do not choose too young. When selected, give your entire thoughts to preparation for domestic use. Some wives insist upon keeping them in a pickle. Others are constantly getting them into hot water. This may make them sour, hard, and sometimes bitter. Even poor varieties may be made sweet, tender, and good by garnishing them with patience, well sweetened with love and seasoned with kisses. Wrap them in a mantle of charity. Keep them with a steady fire of domestic devotion and serve with peaches and cream. Thus prepared, they will keep for years. That is such good advice. Seriously, it was written up to be cute, but there is some serious good advice there that could be applied seriously today that would make a big difference in marriages. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I've enjoyed going through the cookbook and going through the cookbook with you guys, and hopefully I will be getting a chance to do some canning. I'll have to check my processing times, but I will be using some of these recipes right off. All right, give me a like if you enjoyed this, and if you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe because we're going to be doing some more stuff with this cookbook. Thanks for watching. Bye.